What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day, another episode, another camera problem. I'm your host, 30NSG, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about State of Decay. We're going to be talking about Sony thinking about selling off, thinking about selling off the Spider-Man IP. And then we're also going to talk about Destiny. Paul Tassi has an article talking about it says a two-sentence insider report on why Destiny 2 died. If you guys like what I do, we do this Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning till noon Eastern. If you like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. We just cover the news stories, give you my thoughts and opinions. We get your thoughts and opinions as well. What's going on, chat? Let me see who's all here. What's going on, Ward? What's going on, Travis? Eclipse? Albania, Jason, Altern, Sarge. Did I see Water Bear? Sweet Dog, what's going on? Or Sweat Dog? Sweet Dog. You are Sweet Dog. But Sweat Dog, what's going on? Who else is here? Anybody else that I miss? If I miss you, Mr. Luke, what's going on? Good morning. And as I go live, a lawnmower is going past my window right now. Amazing. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but it's definitely loud for me. All right, so on today's show, the game industry right now is there. We don't know what the fuck's happening. Let's be honest, right? Right? We don't know what's happening. We've got video games being shown at the Xbox event, and then all of a sudden, their studio is up for sale or might be closed down, which is Ninja Theory, right? Then we have them talking about State of Decay. And the last time they showed State of Decay, which was back in like 2019, nobody said anything for years, like 4 years. Nobody said anything, 4 or 5 years. And then all of a sudden they start talking about State of Decay, and we're like, oh my God, State of Decay 3 is a thing. They're doing early access tests and alpha tests and beta tests, and they're showing a lot of gameplay now. And yet now we hear that State of Decay 3, okay, might be being off and getting sold, right? So Xbox has been promising State of Decay 3 for years, and now it could be facing cancellation despite its trailers and alpha. What are we even doing here? That's my question, Jez. Article comes from Jez Gordon, right? This is exactly, now, you guys understand why me and Sarge, we don't get excited for anything? Do you guys understand why we don't get excited for anything? Because we don't cash the check before we get the check. We see gameplay, cool, right? You see a trailer, I'm like, I don't care. I want to see gameplay. I want to see gameplay. I want when it releases. When there's an actual release date and it's out to purchase, that's the only time. And then even then I can't get excited, because if I get excited then, we get the game and it's broke, buggy, and unfinished. Let's be honest here, right? Let's be honest. Before I even read this article, we've talked about State of Decay 1. We talked about State of Decay 2. I like all of them. I like State of Decay 1. I like State of Decay 2. But I also know, okay, that when the first game came out, it was broke, buggy, and unfinished. When the second game came out, it was broke, buggy, and unfinished. So now I look at this and go, well, maybe they should cancel it, right? Maybe they should cancel it, because when the game comes out, it's probably going to be broke, buggy, and unfinished. So Xbox has got to be looking at this going, well, we know we're going to put out an incomplete game, and that's not going to be good for us. So maybe we should just sell the company off and let them do their own thing, right? It's mind-boggling to me. If you guys like what I do, we do this Monday through Thursday. We just read articles, give you my thoughts and opinions. Here we go. So Xbox has been promising State of Decay 3 for years, and now it could be facing cancellation. Despite its trailers and alpha, what are you doing here? This is by Windows Central, Jez Gordon. Okay, it says the depth of a trust of Xbox may be imminent. Okay, what the latest report is to be believed, okay? One of the most hotly anticipated upcoming Xbox games is State of Decay 3 from Undead Labs. State of Decay 3 is a zombie apocalypse management simulation game where players in small teams can develop settlements, fight against zombies, hordes, and scavenge for supplies. The previous games had a variety of limitations, but many of these have been eliminated from State of Decay 3, which looks incredibly promising. Like, everything that we wanted in State of Decay 1 and 2 seems like, from the gameplay I've watched and stuff, seems like they're putting it in State of Decay 3, which we always talk about here, right? Here's the bar that State of Decay 1 set, even though it was broken, buggy. And then they came out and said broken, buggy, but we made it better. State of Decay 2 was better than State of Decay 1. And then here we are with State of Decay 3. It'll probably be broken, buggy, but it sees State of Decay 2 and says we amped it up and it's better than the last one. Okay, despite having trailers and previous 2 showcases, as well-received alpha test, which boasted thousands of signups, Microsoft is exploring selling off Undead Labs and potentially canceling State of Decay 3 if it can't find a buyer for the team. Given that the State of Decay 3 is nearly finished, looks spectacular, and has multiple trailers. This one is the most self-immolating ideas I've seen Xbox since I started reporting on this over a decade ago. The report comes from GamesBeat, which lists studios having discussions about Xbox leadership. It coincides with information I received over a weekend. Indeed, Undead Labs could be amongst the studios Microsoft is looking to offload as part of the fiscal year end. This is insane if this is happening, right? This is insane, and we're about to talk about the person's name. I'm told that cuts are being driven by Microsoft corporate CFO, Amy Hood, who has demanded a variety of savings of Xbox to offset losses, which were also results of her previous 30% margin demands. This woman, Amy Hood, okay, and Satya Nadella have to leave Microsoft. They are destroying Microsoft, and I'm not a fan of Microsoft, okay? They're destroying the actual company of Microsoft, okay, even though corporate salute, right? They don't care how they do it, but they're going to do it. Microsoft has frozen discussions with the third parties of Xbox Game Pass deals for now, and exploring a range of measures, which also could see Double Fine, Ninja Theory, Compulsion, and others shuttered if Microsoft can't find a buyer or pathway for them to go independent. Okay. Xbox administration teams are working 7 days a week to meet Microsoft's cutbacks, potentially saving studios with the sales of third-party suitors for self-funded independent ventures. But for me, we shouldn't even be here. At the end of the day, to run a business, you need to be able to sell things. Some studios haven't sold products in years. Eventually, the math catches up. At the same time, Microsoft Gaming Division and its most profitable year after, okay, is the previous fiscal of Satya Nadella's compensation package and valued at almost $100 million last year. Gaming is a risky business and increasingly a luxury business for consumers, in part driven by the rampocalypse, okay, fostered by Microsoft's AI fad, with also gaming moving further and further into directionatory spending territory. I would also argue the trust and culture matter more than ever. Microsoft's corporate either doesn't understand this or perhaps more realistically just doesn't care. I'm going to go with this one, Jez. I'm going to think they just don't care. It's crazy to me that you could have a business being open for years, not making money off of them, and then the time it comes to make money off of these things, they're like, we're going to close them down or we're going to sell them. It's like, bro, what are we talking about? This is the time you do make money off the companies that you've been investing money into, right? You decided to show a trailer back in 2019 about State of Decay 3. People got hyped up for it, even though it was false, didn't exist. Even coming from Undead Labs, like, yeah, we didn't even have a thing. We put that together for that because they told us to. And here we are 5 years later. They've invested 5 years worth of money into making State of Decay 3, and they're like, yeah, we're just thinking about canceling. What? How idiotic is this? It says, quote, if State of Decay 3, which is clearly nearly finished, isn't safe, how is anything safe anymore? How can you trust any announcement Xbox will make in the near future? You can't. You can't. And this is exactly when you come to JXG, Generation X Gaming. Everyone's like, these two guys are bitter and they're just angry. No, we're not bitter or angry. We're just realists because shit like this happens every single day in the gaming industry, and we love games. But we're just tired of seeing it. Okay, State of Decay 3 is clearly nearly finished, and it isn't safe from anything safe anymore. How can you even trust an announcement by Xbox in the near future? How is this indicative of Microsoft's actively trying to set up Asha Sharma and her team for failure? They're all doing it. It's not against Asha Sharma. Amy Hood and Satya Nadella don't care, okay, about the gaming part of Microsoft. They don't care about it. This is throw them under the bus. They don't care who's actually in charge. State of Decay 3 received multiple trailers. Undead Labs, built for passionate fan base across decades, and was early pioneer for building games directly with the Fade-led feedback over the internet. Microsoft's share prices is imploding on fears that has also missed the boat of AI race, which is, let's be real, it has. And it's a response to take the axe to one of the only businesses people actually like. Never change, Microsoft. Actually change. Change now. All right, so there you go. This is absurd. This is absurd. If I was an investor, which I'm not, okay, I have no stake in Microsoft in any way, shape, or form besides buying a box. Okay, if I was an investor, you could look at it and say, yeah, I want my return on investment for money, but at the same time, you don't. If you're an investor in a company, you don't want short term. I mean, obviously, you want short term returns, but you also want longevity. And what Microsoft is doing is they're like bipolar, right? It's like dating a person that doesn't know what the fuck they want. Make sure you find someone that knows the fuck they want, right? Whatever that is, just make sure they know what they want. Microsoft doesn't know what they want, okay? Because they constantly rake and face, okay? And they blame Phil Spencer. They blame Sarah Bond. They're sabotaging Asha Sharma. They don't understand what they have. They think gaming, remember, gaming is the largest industry in the world. Largest industry in the world. Bigger than football, bigger than movies, bigger than music, right? And yet Microsoft's like, yeah, let's just close the studio down right about as they're making money or potentially could make money. And they would rather just scrap it off, write it off as a tax write-off, or just close the studio down and just eat it. And then they would do nothing with the IP, by the way. They would do nothing with the IP. They wouldn't sell it. They would just hold it because that's what companies do. They don't want to actually let them go, right? They're like, we couldn't find a buyer. Did you actually look? Nobody wants to buy. The game's done. How many games have we seen over the years? Star Wars Battlefront 3, right? From New Radical back in the day, or Radical Games. It was done. It was like 95% done. Nope, close it down. Right? All these games, they get to the end tail, they're about to release, and like, nah, let's cancel that. Mind-boggling. Transformers, almost done, canceled. No rhyme, no reason. They just like, that's it. It's absolutely crazy. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments section down below. What do you think? Do you think State of Decay 3 will come out? Do you think State of Decay 3, well, obviously, we'll talk about the game for what the game is when it comes out, if it comes out, because there's really no reason to talk about the game, especially since we don't know if the game is going to even exist. But let me know in your comments section down below. Let me know in the live chat. Please make sure you share, like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about State of Decay 3, Microsoft, Satya Nadella, Amy Hood, or anything in between. Thanks for watching. Travis, thank you very much for the 10 jewels. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for there's the jewel. Gold coin. Thank you very much. A little delayed there. I hit the button. It didn't do anything. Oh, we got this one. I can do that. It's a jewel. It's not a super chat, but I could do.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
Go. All right. Why does my camera keep going dark? What's happening here, camera? Why is it going dark? Fucking savings, man. Save. I saved. And yet it doesn't save. Yeah, this is absolutely this is crazy, guys. That Xbox could fund a game up until 99% completion, and then all of a sudden they're like, I think we have to sell them. I think we have to sell them. It's so stupid. Travis says, Warner Brothers taught us, hold on to things, patent them, do nothing with it, close the studio, and still do nothing. That's right. What was that patent they had on? Morale effect? No, what was that? It was from Shadows of Mordor. What was it called? It wasn't the morality. The hell was the thing called? God, my brain is not here today. Sarge says, camera is the same as mine, bro. It's dying. It doesn't. This is a different camera, Sarge. My other camera was pixelating. So I put this camera in, and now this camera doesn't want to save my settings. What's it, midnight? Yeah, I don't understand. Roadkill says it's because Microsoft doesn't want anything to do with Xbox anymore. But if that's the case, Roadkill, then say it. Don't shy away from it, right? Like, say it with their chest. Be like, we're done. And just fucking close it. This little, we're trying to reevaluate and change things and move things. Like, if there's a game that's just being worked on right now, great, cancel it. Cancel it. They just canceled Bethesda's, or not, ZeniMax's next MMO that was almost done. They canceled it. This game, almost done. They're canceling it. It makes no sense whatsoever. They're like, yeah, the game's almost done. But they don't want to release it. Nemesis system. Thank you very much. The Nemesis system. What's going on, Argus? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Altern says, nothing better than spending years and millions of dollars making them just to cancel it. It makes no sense. Like right now, right? People are pissed off because they canceled Destiny 3. Great. Sony canceled Destiny 3. It wasn't in development for 5 years, and then they canceled Destiny 3. No, they were in Destiny 2, and they're like, yeah, we're done with Destiny 2, and we're not doing Destiny 3. At least they know what they want to do. At least they tell you, yeah, we're not going to waste our money making Destiny 3. Microsoft's like, no, we got 5 years in development, cancel. We have 7 years in development, cancel. Moses, this is the reason I would love for them to be a subsidiary, like LinkedIn. I mean, even if they get away, they're gonna have to get rid of things, right? But at least if Xbox, at least I would think, Mo, if Xbox broke away from Microsoft and they were owned, subsidiary, that they wouldn't cancel a game that's about to come out because that would be the next money they're making. Roadkill says, maybe it's some software problem. That's what all the tech guys always say. Maybe. Chopper Eric says, the camera is just adjusting to the dark times ahead. It's just getting a John. Thanks for you. It's like watching a J.J. Abrams film. Very dark. And not the setting, the lighting. Sarge says, bro, the gaming industry is like this. We make all the money or we kill everyone in the room. There's nothing else. Roadkill says, yeah, it's crazy, man. The money they waste, I could have lived off of. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of money they throw away. There's companies that can't even get money invested in their companies to finish their small independent game. These games are in development for 5 years, 6 years, and then they cancel them. Amy Hood, when Amy Hood gets released, if she gets released before Xbox gets let go or whatever, it'll be like New Year's. I'm not talking about the time frame. Like everyone would be like, yes, right? She is terrible for the company. Terrible. She's putting what's it called? She's putting goals that they can't hit. 30% margins, right? You're canceling games right before their launch. Like these games will make money. Make your money back. Even if it doesn't sell well, at least make some money back. Travis says it's like watching a train crash. It's horrific, but God, those flames look nice. That's exactly what Xbox is right now. It's a runaway train. Bro, check the profits in the industry in 2025. They're not hurting. I know they're not hurting. It'd be like KK leaving Disney. Yes, it's exactly what it would be like. Travis says, you know who should be running Xbox? That's right. Pete Carson. Well, he was a Microsoft guy. Maybe he got a job back there. Who knows? Speaking of disasters, we're going to the next one, which is Destiny 2. Paul Tassi has an article here. It says a 2-sentence insider report on why Destiny 2 died. If you guys like what I do, we do this Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning till noon Eastern. If you like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. Good morning, Wonder Rose. All right, a 2-sentence insider report on why Destiny 2 died. So it says, we're about to hit July, and Destiny 2 fans are still mourning the death of the game, which frankly is probably going on for years, with the IP now in perpetual limbo. Now, players have cycled through the stages of grief about 5 times now, and it's still going, but one refrain is how could this have happened, and how could the series, as big as this beloved, be killed off like this? It says it's a complicated question until it isn't. There's our cases you could also make about why Sony shouldn't have done this, or Marathon's role, or is that why those are also worth discussing? At the end result, it's relatively simple. Okay, it's not Sony's revenge against Bungie. It's not the game's quality tanking. It's the ability to sum up just 2 sentences from one of my sources. One with knowledge of the situation, who spoke on the condition of the anomaly. Simple, still maddening explanation. Okay, it says because the enormous scale of content had to produce nonstop, fans revolt against the scarcity. Destiny was only very rarely profitable during its entire lifespan. Can you imagine that? Destiny was only very rarely profitable during its entire lifespan. That's crazy. Okay. When Destiny was profitable, those extra funds were often immediately misused by leadership at the time, funneled into a way too many simultaneously incubation projects or ideas like spending tens of millions of dollars on a new, unneeded 208,000 square foot headquarters. Man, does anybody remember when I talked about the 208,000 square foot headquarters way back when? It was like 2018 when it came out, 2019. And I talked about this. Do you guys remember I said how much money? Do you guys remember the time I said in 2016 when I talked to people at Bungie and I said I don't like Bungie and they don't know how to spend money? Do you guys remember when I said that Destiny 2 or Destiny or Bungie, the management was bad and they don't know how to spend money? Do you guys remember all these things? I don't work for IGN, right? I don't have any insiders. All I did was have a conversation with a bunch of people at a convention and heard, listened to what they were saying, and then said all of what I said based on the people that I talked to. Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Right? Isn't that crazy? So it says that's pretty much the long and short of it. Few games, if any, produced the amount of content as frequently as Destiny did over the years. Particularly Destiny 2, once it got fully into the non-stop seasonal / expansion model, when the game tried to drastically reduce content to cut costs. And as we just saw with the Year of Prophecy, fans bolted, understandably. It says there's also a past report that expansions like Lightfall and Final Shape missed the sales expectations sometimes by significant amounts. But the expectations were set in the first place because the enormous cost of those projects. Of course, that many of them has been unrealistic, as saying the Final Shape needed to do 50% higher than the record numbers it did put up has never going to happen. Do you understand when me and Sarge on Generation X Gaming, and when I talk about it here, the corporate salute that the number has to constantly go up, it's unfathomable, right? They put a price up here that they're never going to hit, like Battlefield 6 needing to hit 100 million players. Never going to happen. Amy Hood putting 30% margins. Never going to happen. Okay. putting 50% higher than the biggest sales they've had of all time. Never going to happen. They all think that they're Rockstar Games. And there'll be a time when Rockstar Games makes a goal and they don't hit it. And they'll be like, well, we missed the goal because they put the goal ridiculously high. It's crazy to me. The upper middle management and the investors, what they think they can get out of certain things, and they destroy it. Okay, they have way too many people working on the game, burning. Again, their words, not mine. Okay, those extra funds were often immediately misused by the leadership at the time. When I make jokes about making a coffee maker or having a Starbucks or masseuse or all this other stuff, that's a joke. But it's a joke because it's reality. Okay? They didn't need to build a 208,000 square foot headquarters. Imagine all the money that went into building a 208,000 square foot headquarters for Bungie where they could have rented because they were making a shit ton of money, but instead they wanted to invest in a 208,000 square foot headquarters. Imagine if they didn't spend that money. Who knows? But we're in the Concordian timeline here. This also encompasses the bad leadership portion of all. This is something that fans usually are often explicitly blamed for a current situation. In a sense, that's true. As rather than continuously being reinvested into Destiny, the profits were used for bizarre projects like Sprawling HQ in COVID era, or hurt into as many other incubation projects that spread everything thin. Almost everything was canceled, or even greenlit in the first place. Yes, a lot of that went to Marathon, as it was also the game that also make it to release. But it was also a broader issue with the studio's focus. Too many cooks, too many pots, and the Destiny often suffered from this. Wins immediately being gobbled up and regularly elsewhere. Yeah, right? Moving the money elsewhere. It says the leads of this Destiny 3, this leads to Destiny 3 of it all. It does seem wrong to completely abandon an enormous IP like this in a way that we have almost never seen in the series this long running. But AAA games cost have now ballooned so high in recent years, and Destiny has already so pricey. Sony just doesn't want to gamble. It still wants to invest in live space for cheaper live space, though, of course, you can still lose hundreds of millions of dollars doing that too. And we've seen new Destiny game would sell if nothing else. Okay, so there you go. Just the two sentences from an insider. It's really nice to know that 10 years after I've said it. Now, obviously, the trajectory of stuff, you know, if you're off an inch in the beginning, it gets dramatically at the end when you're building something. And my foresight of talking about this 10 years ago, even when I was on Lono's podcast, okay, when we were on the Rageless Round Table back in the day, okay, when Paul Tassi or Guardian Outpost or Webski, right, and all the guests that we had, I stayed exactly where I stayed. And every time I brought up and we talked about Destiny, I would always say, they don't know how to manage money. They don't know what they're doing. Upper management. And I would get pushback, right? People would say, that's not happening. That's not happening. That's not happening. This guy's crazy. People in chat said things. So it's a little nice knowing that what I knew. And now everyone knows. But now it's official because some crazy small YouTuber said something and I don't have sources and stuff. When I get it, trust me, bro. I never said you have to trust me. But when I said these things, this is exactly what I was talking about. Right? We talked about they didn't need to make a 208,000 square foot place. We talked about all the things they waste their money on. I said it was bullshit when they were like, well, they sold this many. I was like, I don't think they did. Right? After Destiny 2 came out. It's a little bit nice to know that now people actually understand what's happening there. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. What do you think? Are you shocked by the circumstance? You better be shocked because nobody believed me when I said Destiny and Bungie can't manage money. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the live chat. Please make sure you share, like, subscribe. If you like what I do here, check out some other videos. Thanks for watching. Sarge says, if they were barely profitable, then why buy them? What the fuck are we even talking about? Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's like they could have done just a little research. Just a little research. Travis says, I remember when you said, make a game, sell a game. Still do. Make a game, sell a game. Ron says, Destiny never added Nicki Minaj. I don't think that would have saved it. Sarge says they could have leased. They did lease. They did lease. And they actually, in the area where they were, Sarge, we talked about this years ago, they could have expanded. There was more office space that they could have done, but they said no. We weren't profitable, but let's build a 208,000 square foot studio. Fucking retarded. Chopper Eric says, Sarge, maybe a panic buy because Activision Blizzard deal with Microsoft and then having COD all to themselves. That could be, Eric. But then the people that made that push because they panic buyed, they should get fired from Sony. Because it's really easy to look at the books. Unless something was going on, and if there was something fishy going on in the books, then there could be a lawsuit with Sony and the people and the investors of Bungie that sold them a company knowing that it was going to fail. Travis says, I could pretend to be shocked if it'll make you feel better. No, you didn't really play Destiny, so. PS5 says, I think Xbox looked at Bungie books and passed on buying them. I could be wrong. No, I've said this. We talked about this, PS5. They looked at their books and they wanted $7 billion. Bungie wanted $7 billion. Microsoft looked at them and said, your burn rate's too high. You're not worth it. Right? I had a whole metaphor and examples of buying houses in the area and stuff like that when we talked about this years ago. Okay? $7 billion is what they wanted for their business. Xbox said no. Then they bought Bethesda afterwards for $7 whatever billion because they had multiple IPs. Right? They had like 4 or 5 IPs and they were all big hits. So they decided to buy Bethesda ZeniMax instead of buying Bungie. Probably one of the smartest moves Phil Spencer did when he was there, because then it was like 2 years later, Sony picks them up for half the price. So Sony could write a thank you card because they would have paid $7 billion. Could you imagine if Sony paid $7 billion? And I guarantee you, right? My speculation, but I guarantee you, Bungie was like, oh yeah, $7 billion. We need to hide the books. What about if we did half off and then we try to get Sony to buy us? That sounds good. Travis says, Mike, if the house isn't profitable, obvious solution is to buy another house. Oh, wait. That's what people do, though. That's what people do. Ron says, at least Bungie's staff had the best cars and boat collection in the industry. I don't know. Have you seen Gabe Newell's yacht? I mean, that's a big fucking yacht. The best part about all of this is I stopped playing Destiny back in 2020, right? And I have as you say, you take pride in that you didn't play the game. I stopped at 2020. I didn't enjoy it since 2018. I went back in 2020. It was like, so I stopped. So I played from 2014 to 2018, stopped, came back in 2020, played the expansions and whatnot. And I just didn't care anymore because I knew exactly what the company was. I knew what the company was. And I'm glad. I'm glad all this is coming out. And look, it's smart. People want to blame Sony for closing down Destiny, but Destiny was just burning money. Bungie was just burning money. Deadeye Survivor says, I got laughed at weeks ago for stating that Undead Labs would face closure after sitting on their IP. They were updating State of Decay 2 instead of working fully on their game. Devs taking their PP. Here's the thing, though. They were told not to work on it, right? This gets a little deeper than this, though, Deadeye, because when they showed the trailer for State of Decay 3, Undead Labs wasn't even working on State of Decay 3. They've said this publicly. They weren't even working on it. Right? So that's another fuck up by Microsoft.
I used to think 30 was crazy. Noticed a lot of things now, here I am, lol.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'm going to give you... Thank you. Thank you. Oh, there goes the camera again. Fucking bitch, I swear to God. Swear to God, this camera. I'm going to throw it out the window. I'm going to throw it out the window. PF says, when Sony bought Bungie, some ponies bragged Sony owned Halo now. Good times. Well, it's funny that you bring that up. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man a little bit later. And people always screw up on who owns Spider-Man, right? So, let's go on, Jesse Mack. The camera is falling to the dark side. Jesse Mack, what'd you miss? We talked about Xbox closing down or potentially closing down Undead Labs for State of Decay 3. Like the game's almost done, and then all of a sudden now they're going to get rid of it or close it down potentially. Mo says Marvel owns Spider-Man. No. Don't worry, Mo. You'll be educated a little bit later. Deadeye says that's crazy. The mismanagement of the studio. What happened with Redfall? The devs wanted Phil to shut the game down, but they were told progress regardless. I'm telling you, you're new in my channel, right? But I talk about how middle management, upper management in these companies are why the reason the gaming industry is falling. People are getting promoted to certain positions. Okay, and I'm doing a broad general statement here, but you look how many studio closures happen, and look what happens when you look at all this. They're like, oh, we're out of money. They don't know what they're doing. Longer process of getting the game, right? Upper management, middle management in these companies, it's not the devs' fault. The devs are the devs, right? They're like the worker ants and stuff, right? You have to have someone come in to be like, hey, what are you working on? What are you doing? All right, we need to get this done. Timelines are timelines. But then they get pushed back, and they get pushed back. And I've done an example because I'm in the film industry. Okay, I worked in the film industry for 20 years. And when we showed up on set, we would have script breakdown. Okay, we would say, okay, we're filming 3 pages today. Okay, great. 12-hour day, 3 pages of dialogue, long scenes, 3 scene changes. All right, this is what we're shooting today. Great. Day 1 of production. We get the 3 pages done. Fantastic. The next day, we have 3 more pages. We get to the 3 pages, but something happens. Actor can't hit their lines. They need a break. Camera jam. Whatever. Right? Then all of a sudden, now we have 1.5 pages done. 1.5 pages done. Well, now the other page and a half goes to the next day. So if we have 3 pages the next day, now we have 4.5 pages. And that slowly builds up. Well, then you have to start to figure out things. You have to either you have to cut parts of the script, or you film it and you go over budget, right? Maybe you can make it up. Maybe you can knock things out and you try to catch up through production. But as it gets built up more and more and more and more, it's just like construction. If you're off like this in the beginning, you're going to be off like this at the end. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. And the camera's dark again. You know what? I think we're just going to leave the camera dark. I swear to God. I wonder if I can fix it within. Let me go to this. Can I fix it here? No, I can't fix it here. Can I fix it here? That's brightness. I need the gain. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Let's apply again. All right. Let's see if that works. Give me 1 second. There you go. I fixed it. All right. Let's see what you guys are talking about here. Sony owns Spider-Man movie stuff. My bad. Well, it gets a little more complicated than that, Mo. So, Roadkill says, smash that like button. Thank you very much. In all seriousness, this is why I'm really sad that, at least to me, it's all business as usual. They've been fucking up for close to 2 decades and haven't learned a damn thing. Jason says the sooner the Xbox goes, the better. No, not so much, Jason. Because if Xbox goes, then Sony has the reins to do whatever they want. You don't want that. Unless Steam comes in and starts competing with them with the console type of stuff. Even though we talk about the chocolatiers, right, for the Willy Wonka analogy, right, you need multiple companies because they keep each other in check. Competition. If there's no competition, they can do what they want. Technically, look at Steam. Steam, even though people want to call it a monopoly, it's not a monopoly, but it's the best of the best in that range. Epic can't compete with them, but now Epic's trying to compete with them instead of trying to bring them down. Okay, you need competition. If you don't have any competition, you just kind of run away with it. You don't want, believe me, you don't want Xbox to fold. And if Xbox folds, then somebody else has to make a gaming system. Something has to happen. Let's see. Jay says competition was great during the 360 era, but they fucked it up. And when they revealed that Xbox One, they've never recovered. Sure, but they're still there, right? They're still there. They're still competing. They still keep him. There's still checkpoints. If you lose them completely, regardless, right? Because think of it from a business standpoint. From a consumer standpoint, you're going to buy the system, whatever system you want, and you're going to enjoy the games that you have on it, right? From a business standpoint, if we don't have another party, like another group, then they just run away with whatever they want. They can raise the prices for whatever they want. Now, the problem is, as we talked yesterday, the RAM Mafia is raising all the prices up. They're being sued now, which nothing's really going to come of that. A couple $100 million, they'll pay it because they're making billions. But they are raising the prices. That's why these companies are making, right? And they're like, oh, well, it's not like Sony and Microsoft are raising the prices so they can make more money. They're trying to make the same amount of money they were making before. But they can't because now dipshits over here are raising the price of the inflation of the RAM. Right? The gaming industry didn't make money off the consoles a decade ago. They didn't make it. For the last decade, they have been making money off the consoles. So now the prices are going up, and they're like, we're losing the money again. We're going back to what we had before. They're like, no, we need to make sure that we still keep our price, that we still get our cut, which is stupid. They should eat it because they are making the money back, but they know they can't make the money back because their first-party titles are not coming out. Jesse Mack says businesses are struggling with their own financial problems. It's not capturing their profits and the audience they're capable of playing is their fault. Sweat says, my FIFA is terrible. No PES, Konami, for competition. They can do what they want. As a fan of football, I will buy it. Right. And they can just keep raising the price. Now, people are upset about Grand Theft Auto being $80, $100. Well, FIFA will be $80 to $100. Why? Because they can. Aku says, like I've said before, Xbox and the competition of Sony folds the industry will be fine. If Xbox folds, Sony will fuck you guys hard, and you'll saying, yes, daddy, the entire time. Yeah, and that goes both ways, though, Aku. If there was a reverse opportunity where Sony was dying and Xbox was the thing, it'd be the exact same thing. I mean, take it out of the gaming space. Look at Windows. Right? The competition, there's other operating systems out there, but nothing really competes with Microsoft. Microsoft can say what they want or do what they want with the operating system, and they have free reign. Paper says another issue that leads back to shitty writers and devs. Well, who hires the shitty writers and devs? That's right, upper management. It all comes back to upper management. If you get people in the companies that are good at what they do, they will hire the people that need to hire to do the job correctly, not because they're trying to gaslight people or call people, to do DEI checklists and stuff. What's going on, Kylo? Jason says, if Xbox wouldn't do the exact same thing, the fuck their base, if Sony faults, 100%. I just said that. Yeah, they would do the exact same thing. This is why you need multiple companies. Sam says, I never thought I would see gaming go down to tubes, but just like everything else, it makes a dollar. Someone will screw it up. Look at everything, Saint, in the entertainment field, right? I think you're around my age. You might be older. I don't know, right? Look at all the franchises, the IPs that made money. Why is Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, comic books, video games, right? All of these things that we loved when we were younger is now being overtaken by people that didn't love comics, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, video games, right? Do people remember? I've said this before. When I was younger in the 80s playing video games, it wasn't like everyone in my class played video games. They didn't. You got made fun of for reading comics. You got made fun of for playing video games. All of these things are true. Okay? Then now you can interview anytime a game comes out or they interview someone, right? They interview them. Oh, what do you play? Oh, I played Call of Duty. Oh, I played Madden. Oh, I play this. Right? It's like the in thing now. Everyone taught, for the last decade, it's been like the in thing. Oh, you're cool if you play video games. And because video games and comics are mainstream because of the movies and stuff like that, and all these other things are now mainstream, they destroy it because the people don't want to like the thing. They want to destroy the thing that you like. They forget that we, the customers, is what made Star Wars a $1 billion business. If it wasn't for, obviously it's a yin and yang type of thing. If Lucas didn't make it, we wouldn't watch it. But he made it, we loved it. So we made him, and he made him a billionaire. He sold it. Then the people that got a hold of it destroyed it. Same with Star Trek, same with Lord of the Rings. Comic books, right? Used to sell hundreds of thousands of millions of copies of comic books back in the day. Now they sell tens and 20,000, right? Because they turned it into movies and everyone's like, oh yeah, I watch the Marvel movies. I'm cool. But they don't give a shit about what the actual content is because they don't know the stories. They don't know the stuff. They don't care. They destroy it. Video games, same thing. Now they're taking the video games. It's the biggest industry in the world. Now they start making movies of it. How many adaptations do you see? That they've always been there, but video game movies used to be shitty. Now they're like blockbusters that you have to go to see. It's like the It movie, the It TV show. Sweat Dog says 30. You just reminded me with the Star Wars booked Florida for the next year. For Horror Fest. I can't wait. Oh, you're coming? Are you coming to Florida? Well, when you get here, Sweat, you let me know, and I'll meet up with you. Mr. G says, what's up? Today is my last Friday. Woohoo! Microsoft can bite me. Wait, today is your last Friday? Today's Tuesday. Is that your Friday? I'm confused there. Mo says, I've been here. You're all just visiting. But get the fuck out of here. Leave us alone. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Fallout was a solid 5. Normies gobbled it up. It's almost like when we were kids and you had your own little clubhouse, like no girls allowed type of thing. That's exactly what it feels like. Right? They had their niche. They had their stuff. I try to explain to my wife, right? Because she's like, why do you get so passionate about this stuff? She likes reading books, right? And she reads her type of books, right? The romance novels and stuff like that. And I said, how would you like it if I came into your space, not physically, but the books that you like reading, but instead of romantic, writing and stuff like that, I now put lots of guns and action into it and completely change what the story is. Your characters are still the same, right? They're still named the same, but they're completely different now, right? And she thought about it for a second. She's like, well, I wouldn't read that then. I go, yeah, that's correct. You wouldn't read it because you wouldn't be interested in it because you're not the fan base for that, right? But I see it's a popular book. I'm like, well, this romantic novel is the biggest thing. And they're like, you know what it needs? It needs guns. It needs guns, right? Right now, Supergirl's failing, and they're like, oh, it's because of the chuds. It's because the people are against women being superheroes and stuff. It's like, shut the fuck up. Okay? It's not even about her coming out and saying it's bisexual. It's a bad fucking movie. It's a bad script. It's a bad film, right? It's bad. And Supergirl has never, ever been a popular character. She's not even in the top 100, okay? People can like her, but she is not even close, okay? She's not even close to what Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, fucking Aquaman's bigger than Supergirl, okay? October 2027, let me know. I'll meet up with you. If it's for a beer, if it's for a coffee, whatever it is, I'll meet up with you. Right? Superman comics sell millions of copies. Supergirl comics sells tens of thousands. Not hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands. How you screw this up, Warner Brothers and DC, is beyond me. Altered says she's not even super. 90% of the movie, she doesn't have powers. Just a regular girl. Yeah. Fucking amazing. Merman's bigger than Supergirl. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I watched the first 2 seasons of Supergirl, right? I watched the old movie of Supergirl. I've seen other Supergirls in Smallville and stuff, but she's a side character. She's a side character. And they're based it off her best-selling comic, and they fucked the story up. Yeah, but even her best-selling comic, it doesn't come anywhere close to a Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. The fact that DC rebooted and went Superman, Supergirl back to Superman and Clayface, they've lost the bill. Exactly, Paper. Exactly. Wrong superhero for the second movie. Another Wonder Woman. A Batman. They're so delusional that they have a Batman, but the Batman's not linked to that universe. It's like, how fucking confusing can you make it? It's like, oh yeah, well, Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman is not connected to this Batman with James Gunn's DC. It says a standalone thing, and then this is that, and then over here, it's like, oh, okay. All right. The next story is going to lead into a video, which is then going to go into a big conversation about Marvel and a bunch of other stuff, right? So I saw this, and I was like, again, this is not a official thing. This is just murmurs of stuff happening, okay? So this is from Filmified Guy, okay, who's only got like 300 followers, but that's not, he says something here, okay, on Twitter. And I read this and I went, well, this has happened before. And then I found that article, or I found that news story back in the day as well. Okay. So Sony and Disney have had this constant push and pull type of thing with the Spider-Man. Do you guys know how much Sony paid for Spider-Man to get it from Marvel back in the day when they were bankrupt or going bankrupt? Right? Sony paid a premium price of $7 million. I'm being facetious. That's it. $7 million. That's what they paid for for just Spider-Man, right? They were offered the entire brand of Marvel for $25 million, and Sony said, no, we just want Spider-Man. And they paid $7 million for Spider-Man. Worked out for them. It worked out for them because they made like $9 billion in total or whatever. Okay. But here he says, Sony is actually in talks with Marvel to sell the Spider-Man film rights back to Disney/Marvel. And you're like, well, why would they do this? Right? A report suggests that instead of waiting 10 to 20 years to slowly accumulate profits from individual movie releases, Sony could secure the entire projected value of the franchise up front. Now, remember they paid $7 million for Spider-Man back in like 1999. Maybe a little earlier than that. Okay. And now it's worth billions of dollars. Now they've renegotiated their contracts with Disney in the last 10 years twice. It was like 2015, and I think it was like 2019, right before the last movie came out, where they got 25%. They wanted 50% Disney, but they got 25%. Okay. It says the reason behind the selling the rights back could be Sony gets a historical $10 billion plus payout instead of waiting decades. Sony already squeezed everything they could out of the spin-offs like Venom, but they never succeeded. Sony lacks the MCU characters needed to buy or build major crossover events, and making standalone Marvel movies without Disney's creative backing is a huge gamble. Now, back in the day, I said this is very smart of Disney to do what they're doing. They wanted to bring Spider-Man into Civil War, okay? Now, 99% of you didn't watch me back then, okay? But back then I said this is a very smart move. They're playing the long game here, Disney. But Disney, and this is before now, the MCU came out and all the problems happened with after Endgame. Okay, this is before that. We're talking Civil War time. This is like peak Marvel at the time. And they were bringing Spider-Man into the series. That's the first time they did a crossover to bring him in. And I said, oh, this is smart of Disney. Okay, back then I said, they're bringing him in to play the long game because by putting Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was peak at the time, brought the stock up big time for Spider-Man, which would then ruin Spider-Man. Okay, hear me out. This is what I said back then. Okay, back then I said that Disney wants to put Spider-Man in the film because it'll uplift Spider-Man even more, and then Sony will make way more money off Spider-Man, which they did. Because after Civil War, all the Spider-Man films made $1 billion or close to $1 billion, where before it would make like 600 million, 700 million, stuff like that. So Sony thrived off of it. And because of that, Disney asked for a bigger pie when it came in 2019. And they said, we're not giving you 50%. They settled for 25%. But in 2011, 2012, Sony sold back the merchandise license to Marvel. So anytime a movie comes out for Spider-Man, anything that has Spider-Man on it, shirt, hat, boots, mug, whatever, toys, all 100% goes towards Disney. So not only did Disney get the value back, then bring Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which then uplifted Spider-Man, which made more sales for Disney in the long run because of the toy sales, because they get 100%. Now, there was a story back in 2024. Okay, in 2024, is Sony finally willing to sell its Spider-Man rights to Disney and Marvel? Now, down here it says, here's where it gets juicy. Okay, the word on the street is that Sony seriously is considering selling those rights back to Marvel Studios and Disney. The deal they've also got now lets Tom Holland's Spidey pop up in Marvel Cinematic Universe or the MCU. While Sony also keeps crackling at its own stuff, it also worked out great for the big Spider-Man films. But those solo villain projects, right, they're not cutting it. After Kraven tanked, chatter started picking up that Sony might be ready to cash out on the Disney take full control. Okay, Marvel already got its big stake in Spider-Man world. Kevin Feige and the MCU masterminds co-produced the Spidey films with Sony, Amy Pascal, and the partnership been a hit, letting Peter Parker team up with Iron Man and Captain America's Civil War in 2016, and the flight alongside with the Avengers in Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. But Sony got its own plans too, like the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which also won an Oscar in 2019, and the sequel Across the Spider-Verse in 2023. Beyond the Spider-Verse is still in the works, but it's also been delayed since past 2025. And there's been Spider-Man Noir, which is people really like that. Okay, a live-action show with Nicolas Cage set and swinging onto the screen soon, which already happened because this is a 2024. Okay, so why sell now? Sony flops might be part of it. We also got a rule where they also have to make Spider-Man movie every 5 years. It's actually like five, almost 6 years. It's like almost 6 years. Every almost 6 years, like 5.5 years, they have to make a Spider-Man film. Well, maybe Sony at this point, okay, now going back to present day, maybe Sony at this point is like, you know what? We're tired of, because Tom Holland, let's just say he could play 2 more movies, but then they got to reboot it again. Then you're telling the same story over again. Where if they sell it back, right, and maybe Sony's getting out while it's getting hot. End of July, Spider-Man comes into theaters, brand new day. It's going to make $1 billion. It's going to make $1 billion. And maybe Sony knows, obviously they know this, and they're like, I don't know if we can do this again. So they're like, maybe we should sell it. Now remember, they spent $7 million to get the brand all those years ago. They've made their money back from Spider-Man. They've lost their money with the other side characters and stuff, right? But they've made so much money off of Spider-Man itself that they're like, maybe we should just get rid of it while it's hot because they can sell it to Disney for buku bucks, okay? It says Disney gets full reign and Sony cashes out the big check. Plus, it'll probably see Spider-Man pop up more in the MCU projects, maybe even Disney Plus shows, which Sony blocked so far. What's next? Spider-Man 4 is already locked in for July 31st, 2026, with Tom Holland back and Sadie Sink joining the cast. Let's see. So nothing's in stone yet. Sony's still got a lot to think about. Now, obviously, we fast forward to today, and people are like, well, I can't fathom this. Disney's been putting that seed. They put that seed in 2016, and they've been watering it ever since. Because, obviously, look at what's happening in Brand New Day. Brand New Day, if it was just a Spider-Man film, would it make $1 billion? Maybe. But now it's got Hulk and Punisher in it. And if it wasn't, because Sony could just do the exact same thing over and over again, and their other characters are not really selling or populating the culture, okay? But you know who would still see these things? Comic book guys, nerds. The people that used to love Spider-Man back in the day, and we want to see the crossover, and we want to see other things, and we want to see the Hulk, and we want to see all these things. I would love to see Wolverine and Spider-Man in a movie together. Well, guess who can do that? Disney. Now, obviously, I don't like that Disney owns everything, but Disney owns Marvel. They just got the rights back for Fantastic Four, right? I think they just got the rights back to Hulk, and now they're trying, and they're going to pay a big, big premium, and Sony's a big winner here. Sony's a big winner here because Sony paid $7 million, and they're going to get billions. They're going to get billions of dollars from this, and they're going to wait. They're going to wait till this comes out, makes $1 billion, and then sell it off, right? Now, we're going to watch a video. We're going to watch a video from John Campea. John Campea 3 months ago had a video called Understanding the Marvel/Sony Spider-Man Deal and Rights. I have not seen this, okay? But it popped up when I was doing my research here, and I was like, all right, well, if someone's going to explain Spider-Man, because everyone loves saying that Sony owns Spider-Man, they only own the film rights, and they only own all live action of Spider-Man, right? They own all live action of Spider-Man, and I think they own a little bit of anime like from Miles Morales and stuff like that, right? So let's watch John Campea. John Campea, link in the description down below if you guys want to watch his channel. Go to his channel, give it a like, give it a sub. So let's watch this.
Spider-Man is unquestionably one of the most popular...
Oh. Sorry, guys. I watch shit while I'm doing stuff around the house. So my thing is at 2 point.
popular and beloved superheroes of all time. And because of that popularity, every time a new show or movie gets announced, whether it's Spider-Man Noir on Amazon Prime or your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man on Disney Plus, we get flooded with the question, wait, I thought Sony owned that, or why isn't this in the MCU? So today, we're going to take some time and dive into the complex...
No, they don't own Insomniac Spider-Man. They own the studio, right? They own the studio of Insomniac. They own the video game rights of Sony, but they don't own like that Spider-Man is not theirs.
World of the Spider-Man rights. Who gets to make the movies? Who gets to use which characters? Who pays for it? Who controls?
They own the company. This is how it works, Travis. They own the company, right? Insomniac was licensed with Marvel to make Spider-Man, right? Because they actually went to Xbox first and they turned them down. Insomniac then was making Spider-Man and Sony picked them up. Now, Sony owns Spider-Man, the movie rights, but they don't own Spider-Man, the game, right? They're licensed that from Marvel. So Spider-Man, Sony is not, the video game is not owned by Sony. They own the company making the game, but they license the game, Spider-Man, from Marvel and Disney.
Controls animation. What about television? We're going to get into all of that and more, so let's buckle in. First, let's start with the foundation. Who owns Spider-Man? A lot of people get confused over this one. Many think Sony owns Spider-Man. They don't. The first thing we need to understand is this foundational concept. Marvel owns Spider-Man.
That's right. Marvel owns Spider-Man. Sony controls Spider-Man.
While Sony controls Spider-Man, at least to a degree, at least when it comes to movies and live action and some animation, but we'll get into those complexities later. In a very basic way, think of it like a house that a person named Marvel owns. They sign a rental agreement to a person named Sony to lease it and live in it. Now, even though Marvel owns the house, they can't use it, they can't swim in its pool or live in it as long as that rental agreement is in effect. It's
they couldn't do that, Aku. You're saying for the game rights, basically. Well, the funny part is, as we're talking about games being vanished and stuff, Sony takes away people's movies and stuff all the time, right? Disney could be like the license is done, and that way that anyone on PlayStation wouldn't be able to play Sony. They would they would delist it for the game. For the game rights, for the game rights, they can 100% do that.
Sony's house to use and live in and control. Marvel can only come over and play in its yard as long as Sony invites them to, but now I'm convoluting the analogy. You get what I'm talking about. So how did this situation all come to be? Well, back in 1999, Marvel was in bad financial shape. They were just coming out of bankruptcy and they needed capital. To raise that capital...
This is crazy. If you want to hear a good story about Marvel and stuff like that, go look at when they were going bankrupt and how much they were just handing things away. This is the one thing I do like about Disney buying Marvel. Because Disney's got so much money, they can start purchasing the things back, and they're getting Marvel all together again, which is nice from a Marvel fan, right? I don't like Disney owning them, and they fuck it up. But it's nice, though, that Marvel's getting back, and they're getting back.
They started selling off licensing deals to a bunch of their characters like X-Men, Fantastic Four, Hulk, Blade, and others. One of those deals, the one they probably regret the most, was to sell the rights to Spider-Man to Sony. It was a perpetual license, meaning that as long as Sony begins production on a new film every 5 years and 9 months.
Yeah, see, it's weird. It's not 5.5 years, but it's not 6 years. It's 5 years and 9 months. It's just really weird.
Months. I don't know why it's 5 years and 9 months, but that's what it is. They keep the rights forever. Yes, forever. Now, considering how popular Spider-Man is...
Now think about that, right? Every 5.5 years or 5 years and 9 months, you have to make a new Spider-Man or reboot Spider-Man. So Sony now has it since 1999, right? And they've had it now for 26 years. They've made like 9 films, right? Like 9 films. And it's like, what are we going to do with this? So they tried to branch off. They tried to get Morbius. They tried to get Kraven. They tried to get Madam Web. They didn't know what to do. They're trying, well, what else can we do? Venom did good for them. Everything else bombed for them. So how long can you just keep making Spider-Man by himself to do things? It's a shame they've never done the Sinister Six. It's a shame.
Considering just the standalone Spider-Man movies have made a combined $9 billion.
That's crazy. All the Sony Spider-Man films made $9 billion. They paid $7 million
at the box office. How much do you think Sony paid for those rights?
I know it's 7. It's $7 million.
$2 billion, $3 billion. Not even close. Sony bought the forever rights to this $9 billion franchise for just $7 million.
Dude, do you understand? They could come out with flop after flop after flop after flop after flop, as long as they're not Bungie people working at Sony, okay? As far as the entertainment goes, to make them spend the money. They made so much money in the last 26 years because of Spider-Man. Just off the film alone, $9 billion. They paid $7 million and made $9 billion. That is fucking winning the lottery. Holy Christ. But Sony's retarded because they turned down. Sony could have owned the entire rights to Marvel, the entire thing, for less than $30 million.
That's right, just $7 million. Theoretically speaking, Spider-Man films have already made over 1,000 times Sony's initial investment. You think Marvel has seller's remorse? On a side note, did you know that according to the book, The Big Picture, The Fight for the Future of Movies,
Ashraf, they sold it because they were bankrupt. They were going under. They had to license out the thing, otherwise Marvel wouldn't be around.
By Ben Fritz, when Sony was negotiating the deal for Spider-Man, Marvel head Ike Perlmutter actually offered Sony the film rights to almost its entire catalog.
It's so crazy. They had the entire catalog. The entire Marvel. So instead of Disney owning Marvel, they could have, and remember, what did Disney buy Marvel for? Billions. It's like $4 billion or something like that. Sony could have bought the entire catalog for $25 million.
Including Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, and the Avengers for roughly $25 million. $25 million for all of it. And when Sony's negotiator took that offer back to the executives at Sony, their response to him was, and I quote, "Nobody gives a shit about any of the other Marvel."
Oh my God. If they had the almanac from Back to the Future. Okay. Holy shit. They could have had it for $25 million, the entire catalog. And they went, nobody gives a shit about any other Marvel characters. Go back and do the deal only for Spider-Man. Fucking hell, man.
Characters. Go back and do a deal for only Spider-Man.
John's like, what?
Okay, now let's look at two other extremely important.
No, Spider-Man was nothing back then, Shadow. Go back. There was no movies yet. The Spider-Man movie back then, there was television shows and stuff like that. $7 million, okay? Especially when someone's going under and they're like, yeah, we're just going to sell it. Right? They're like, we just need to stay afloat. They were giving the whole catalog for 25. Spider-Man was 7 alone. So think about what everyone else is worth. It was 1/3 basically of the entire deal was just Spider-Man.
Events. The amendments to the original Spider-Man deal that took place in 2015 and the one that took place in 2019. The deal in 2015 changed the Marvel movie landscape forever, and it brought Spider-Man into the MCU.
This was the smartest thing Disney did, right? And this is Kevin Feige at peak, okay? When Kevin Feige made this deal to bring Spider-Man, I already said this earlier in the show, when he brought Spider-Man into this, they knew exactly what they were doing. They were uplifting Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong. Spider-Man sold a shit ton of stuff with Tobey Maguire and then Andrew Garfield, okay? But when they brought Tom Holland into the MCU, it fucking cranked it up. And Sony benefited from it, and so did Disney. They planted that seed, they watered that seed, and now here we are in 2026, 11 years later, and now, potentially, Sony might be selling it back to Marvel because they're like, I think this is it for us. Because why wait 10 more years to get paid billions of dollars when we can get upfront right now for it?
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder why Sony, if it is true that they want to sell it, what's going on with Sony, that they need $10 billion?
Under this agreement, Sony retained full control of the Spider-Man film rights and continued to finance, market, and distribute the standalone Spider-Man movies. But Marvel Studios, led by Kevin Feige, would creatively produce the films and integrate the character into the MCU. Now, this meant Spider-Man could finally appear alongside characters like Iron Man and Captain America, beginning with Captain America: Civil War in 2016. Financially, the deal was structured so that Sony paid for the standalone Spider-Man films and kept the vast majority of the box office revenue, while Disney received a small percentage, reportedly around 5% of.
Now think about that. 5%. But when they put Spider-Man into the thing, they went from 5%, and I think they asked for somewhere across half, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't end up with half. They got 25%.
First dollar gross. Spider-Man was in the MCU and Sony made loads of money from it. It was a win-win. That is until the enormous success of Spider-Man Far From Home in 2019, which made over $1.1 billion. Disney now wanted a bigger piece of the Spider-Man pie.
Yeah, because it was because of them. If it wasn't because of them, Spider-Man wouldn't have gotten over $1 billion.
Than just 5%. So a new deal was announced in September of 2019 that changed the structure. For future Spider-Man films, beginning with Spider-Man No Way Home, Marvel and Sony agreed to co-finance the films. Sony would pay for 75% of the production costs and keep 75% of the profits, while Disney would now cover 25% of the production costs and keep 25% of the profits.
Now, Disney made more money off the Spider-Man films, okay, by only paying 25% and grossing the 25% they keep, than all of the movies combined they did with Black Widow, Shang-Chi, what was the other one? The Internals. Like, all those films bombed. Every single one of them.
Sony still retains control of the Spider-Man film rights and handles distribution, but Marvel now has a much larger financial share and continues to creatively produce the films through Marvel Studios. It's also important to note that it's different for the bigger ensemble MCU movies that Spider-Man simply appears in as a smaller part of a larger ensemble. So, for movies like Captain America: Civil War or Infinity War, Disney pays 100% of the production costs and keeps 100% of the revenue.
Right.
Sony isn't involved other than having some input and veto power over exactly how Spider-Man is used or presented in those films. Okay, so now you may be wondering, well, why can Disney make things like Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man for Disney Plus? If Sony controls all the rights, how can they do that? That's a great question. The issue of who has the rights to produce stuff is a complex web. Anyway.
Come on, John.
So let's untangle it.
Oh, he did it again. Doing the web tangled. All right.
Here's how it all breaks down. Live action movies. Sony has full control over live action movies. Marvel cannot make any live action Spider-Man film or any of Spider-Man's characters without Sony's direct.
All right, so there you go, right? Live action movies. Sony has full control over the live action movies. Marvel cannot make any live-action Spider-Man film or any Spider-Man characters without Sony direct permission and involvement.
Permission and involvement. Got it? Easy enough. What about animated movies? Same thing. Sony has full control and rights for animated Spider-Man movies.
Movies. There's a difference there. Movies, not the commercial, not the TV shows. Anything less than a film. They don't have any rights to Spider-Man for that.
And his connected characters. So, for example, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's a Sony
which is the film.
Under the current terms of their deal, you will not be seeing Disney making any animated Spider-Man movies. Well, what about streaming for these movies after they leave theaters? That's another great question. Because Sony is the distributor, all Spider-Man movies fall under the Sony Netflix deal.
Right, because they own the film rights.
This means that after the theatrical and digital PVOD runs, Spider-Man hits Netflix first for an exclusive 18-month window. Only after those 18 months are up can Sony move the movie over to Disney Plus for the second window.
Well, it's under contract, but they can move it anywhere, really, if whatever they wanted to. But Disney gets it second.
So if you want to see Spider-Man Brand New Day as soon as it hits streaming, you're going to need Netflix. Okay, so the movies are pretty straightforward. Sony controls everything. But when we get to TV, it gets a little bit more complicated depending on the situation. So for live action TV shows, Like the movies, this is all Sony. Sony and only Sony has the rights to do any Spider-Man connected live action TV
Live action. That's why Nicolas Cage's Noir is Sony.
shows. A perfect example of this is the upcoming Spider-Man Noir series. Disney cannot do these. Okay, well, what about animated TV shows? Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. See, Marvel and Sony both have the rights to make animated Spider-Man TV shows with one big distinction. A Marvel-produced Spider-Man animated show must be under 44 minutes.
Okay.
This is why the average length of an episode of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man on Disney Plus is just 29 minutes long. Sony can also produce any Spider-Man animated series at once, but they can only do so if their episodes are over 44 minutes in length. So far, they haven't made any of these.
They haven't made any of them.
So, for animated Spider-Man
They haven't made any Spider-Man animated film on television.
stuff on TV, Marvel under 44 minutes, Sony over 44 minutes. I mean, really, it's Marvel 30-minute episodes and Sony an hour-long episodes, but you get the point. Okay, so what about all the characters associated with Spider-Man? Why can Sony make films like Morbius or Kraven, and why did they? Well,
That's the question. Why did they? Why did they make a Morbius movie and a Kraven?
according to the terms of the deal, Sony has the rights to roughly 900 characters associated.
Think about that for a second. They own 900 characters, and all they have been making is Spider-Man. Well, Venom also now, right? So 2. They tried to make other ones, but they all bombed. So they've made 2 major characters, 3 with Miles Morales, basically, right? But then they've had to, put them all in and use other characters, obviously, Aunt May and stuff as a character as well. But they've only used a handful, maybe 20 of the 900 out of all the films, about 20 characters.
With Peter Parker. If they debuted in a Spider-Man comic, Sony likely controls their film and TV future. There are a few exceptions for characters who originated in other comics but are heavily tied to Spidey, or the other way around like Kingpin. You see, in practice, Marvel can use Kingpin in Daredevil because he's a Daredevil villain.
Yeah, but he wasn't introduced in Spider-Man. That's why they don't own the rights to him.
But Sony can technically use him in a Spider-Man movie like Into the Spider-Verse because he debuted in The Amazing Spider-Man number 50.
Isn't that crazy to think about? Like right now, you create something, you draw it on paper, right? And you're like, I created him, and you put it on the thing. But when corporate gets control of stuff, they're like, well, 30 created that thing with this comic, so this thing is his, and we own that, because like it gets so ridiculous when corporate gets involved, right? And this is exactly why I would love to see Spider-Man go back to Marvel. Not so much Disney, but I would love if Marvel got all the Marvel things together again. So we don't have any of these restrictions on who can do what and when can they do it and how long can they do it for. And it's like, this has ruined Marvel because you've broken up everything.
Now,
Marvel, or I should say Disney, is like Thanos in many different ways. But basically, they have the Infinity Gauntlet. They've gotten Fox. They've gotten Universal, right? They've gotten all the things back. They took them all back, except the one stone, which is Spider-Man.
worry too much about this because the list of characters who would fall under this exception is very, very, very small. Now, so far, almost all the terms of this Marvel and Sony deal seem to favor Sony to one degree or another. But wait, there is one area of this deal that heavily and lucratively favors Marvel, and that is merchandise.
So Sony they were hurting back in the day. And they returned the merchandise and they sold it back for a ridiculous price, a lot more money than what they bought Spider-Man for. But they lost out here. Sony was hurting, and so they didn't want to sell Spider-Man back, so they broke off the merchandise and sold that back to Marvel and Disney.
When it comes to merchandising, Disney made out huge. In 2011, Sony was cash-strapped and sold the merchandising rights back to Marvel and Disney for a one-time payment of
That is, think about this. Remember, Sony bought Spider-Man for $7 million. They sold back just the rights of the merchandise for $175 million. And they made $9 billion. Sony has made out like a bandit on this deal. I think they do sell. I don't think they care to make more Spider-Man films down the road, because let's just say they sell it for $10 billion, because it's worth $9 billion, $10 billion. After this movie comes out in July, it's going to be at the highest peak ever, right? And Sony will be like, yeah, we'll just keep it, or we'll sell it and then you get to buy it. And will Marvel buy? Will Disney buy? I think they will.
$175 million. Today, every time you buy a Spider-Man toy, t-shirt, or a lunchbox, whether it's for a Tom Holland movie or a Spider-Verse movie, Disney gets 100% of that money. This is a huge reason why Disney is willing to play ball with Sony. The movies are essentially just 2-hour commercials for the Disney toy line. All right, now we got to take a second.
Because think about this. If Sony continues to make movies, and let's just say this last one makes $1 billion. It will, right? If they think they're going to make $10 billion, if they sell Spider-Man for $10 billion, let's say, and they only make a movie every 5 years for Spider-Man, that's a lot, man. You got to wait another 20 years before you're getting paid $10 billion off of that. So Sony's probably just like, you know what? Let's make this last one. Maybe make one more, right? And then they sell it back. Make that money up front. Use that money, and unlike Bungie, invest it in something better than what Bungie did.
And talk about those mandatory Spider-Man traits. Now, when Marvel sold the license to Sony, they wanted to make sure Sony didn't go crazy and fundamentally change their valuable character. So they created a set of rules that both Sony and Marvel would adhere to when dealing with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. These rules became public during the 2014 Sony hack. Now, rules for the Spider-Man persona: he must be male, he must not use foul language, he does not smoke, he does not use or distribute drugs, and he does not have sex before 16.
There you go.
Sorry, young Peter, no filthy for you. Now, for Peter Parker's persona specifically, he must be Caucasian, he must be heterosexual.
Because Peter Parker is Caucasian. Meaning they can't ever change him. Now, I guarantee you, this is where they'll fuck up, right? Disney will buy it back, and then they'll change Peter Parker into a different race.
Sexual. His parents became absent during his childhood. He is raised by an aunt and uncle in
By an aunt and uncle, but not specifically
Queens. And he gains his powers during middle school or college from a spider bite. Standard stuff.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, these Parker rules only apply to Peter Parker specifically. Characters like Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, they don't apply here.
Right. So they could have sex underaged. Right. Who wants good morals? Right. They can have sex underage. They can be whatever they want. They can be non-binary. They could be a tree.
Some exceptions.
Sorry, Groot.
Can be made to these rules if specifically agreed upon by both Marvel and Sony. Obviously, we can't cover every single detail of the hundreds and thousands of pages of legal documents and contracts, but I hope this gives you at least a general understanding of how the Spider-Man deal works between Sony and Marvel, who gets to do what, who pays for what, and why the deal has been extremely lucrative for both of them. So, all that's left now is for us to anxiously await the arrival of Spider-Man Brand New Day, the latest collaboration between Sony and Marvel to hit our theaters, and I can't wait, and it's going to make both of them unholy amounts of money. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. My name is...
Good video. That's a good explanation about the Sony brand, right? And the Spider-Man brand that Sony owns and what they own and what they don't own. If you like that, hit the like button. Go to John Campia's site. Hit the subscribe button. Yeah, I always love when people are like, oh, Sony owns it. I'm like, they don't own it. They only own the live action. They only own that specific format of Spider-Man. They don't own the video games. They don't own other stuff. What's going on, Ginger Prime? Right? So I like that he broke it down like that. And it gets me wondering, right? It gets me wondering if, going back to the tweet, if there's some substance to this, right? Because in 2024, there was an article talking about Sony was interested in selling it. This person's saying as of today, right, as of June 29, or actually yesterday, 11/24, today's the 30th, right? Yeah, today's the 30th. So as of yesterday, this person's talking about how they could be selling it, which would make sense. And for all these reasons, right? The reasons it says, again, let's go back to it, right? Sony gets a historical $10 billion plus payout instead of waiting decades. It would take decades for Sony, because if they only make a movie every 5 years, right? Well, they have to. They can make it earlier. But they would have to make a lot of Spider-Man films, and if each one made $1 billion, which you can't say will, you can't fathom that every single one, because there's be a point where it gets to a saturation point and it starts to lose interest. Okay, this movie that comes out is going to make $1 billion. Okay, it's going to make $1 billion. It might even be the biggest one ever. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people are excited about Brand New Day. So this is the highest the stock's going to be. And if Sony then capitalizes on it and says, yeah, we want to sell it. All right. So it says Sony has already squeezed everything they could out of the spinoffs like Venom, but they never succeeded. Venom did good. It was profitable, but the other ones weren't. So, like, how often do you go? Like, what can you do? If you give it back to Disney, if you give it back to Marvel, not give it, if you sell it back to them, okay, they can start taking and making side movies, sort of like a Dead. Look, this is what I would love to see in the next Marvel Cinematic Universe type of stuff, right? I would like to see a standalone movie where you can make it a team up. Like, I would love, like, Deadpool and Wolverine was just a fun movie. Was it a great movie? No, it was just a fun movie, right? Kind of brought everything back into what Marvel was trying to do. But if Spider-Man and Wolverine can be in a movie together, Punisher and Spider-Man, Hulk and Spider-Man, this is what we loved as kids, teenagers, young adults, when you're reading comics, when you had the crossover and stuff. And sure, there was a line through the stuff, but you don't need to make the cinematic universe connect to one big story at the end. You could just tell these little stories in between. And I think that would revive Marvel again, right? I don't think we all have to have every single character from every single movie show up into the movie like they're doing with Doomsday to make it valid again. You don't need to have this giant crescendo at the end. Endgame was perfect, okay? If you don't like it or not, it's fine. But what they did from what Iron Man was to what Endgame is, it was perfect. It was such a good time to be a comic book fan, to be a movie fan, and they feel like they have to keep going. They didn't have to do the next phase and try to make the next crescendo at the end. Is it cool? Sure, you could make a crescendo, but you can just make it from a 3-thing movie instead of watching 15 films and having a closure point, right? It was so perfect. And I don't think we're ever going to have that moment again where you have 15 films have an ending like they did. Okay, and I don't think they should try to do it again. What they're trying to do now is trying to recoup or revigor the MCU. Okay, I would like to see Spider-Man. I would love to see Sony give it back, sell it. Obviously, $10 billion, $7 million they paid for it, which is fucking amazing. $7 million. They turned it into a $9 billion plus franchise. Okay, congratulations, Sony. Right? Now they give it back to Marvel. Disney will screw it up in some way, shape, or form, but then Marvel will be whole again. They can do what they want with whatever characters they want. They could bring an absurd character that you've never even seen before in any of the movies and just put it into a movie, because they don't have to ask for rights from Universal or from Fox or from New Line and from Sony. They could just make the films they want, and I think they can make the television shows and the films, and they have such an open-ended thing, and yet, obviously Disney wants to ruin it, which goes to a completely different conversation of now you need writers and people that actually like the material that they're writing for and not haters of the actual stuff, right? One piece of the puzzle is if Sony sells back to Disney, now the other piece of the puzzle is getting actual people. Go look. We used to do a show, okay? We used to do a breakdown of all the Marvel stuff, right? All the Marvel TV shows and movies and stuff, and I stopped because there was one thing that they all had in common. All of them, all the TV shows had in common. They hired writers that had no experience, zero experience. They weren't already in the industry. They had like a short story or one little pilot series. None of the writers knew what the fuck they were doing, and they completely utterly ruined the shows. They completely, utterly ruined the movies that came out after Endgame because they were trying to cut costs. They were bringing people in that were coming up, or they thought they were coming up, and they completely and utterly ruined what the characters were because these people didn't read comics. They didn't understand the characters. These people that are writing movies for superheroes don't understand superheroes. They think, and this is exactly their mindset, They think they're stupid. They think the people that read comics are stupid. They think the people that don't care, they don't like good stories. These are just stupid little stories. You can hear it in the actors that play it. They're like, for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're like, it's just good and bad, nothing matters. They don't understand what Peter Parker stands for. They don't understand what Bruce Wayne stands for. They don't understand what Superman stands for and Clark Kent stands for. They made Clark Kent and Superman one person because they're idiots. Okay? All of these comic book people that write for shows and movies do not understand where they're coming from. If you guys haven't seen X-Men 97, the one on Disney Plus, okay? Holy Christ, that is a good show. Now, the creator of that show, I forget what his name was, he got ran through the ringer because of other things not to do with the actual show. Okay? The show is phenomenal, right? Season 2 starts, I think, this week or next week or whatever it was. X-Men 97 is amazing. That's because the person that created the show understood what the project was, understood what they were linking it to, and understood the characters that he was writing about. Fantastic. Now you go watch The Marvels, Thor, Love and Thunder, right? Taika Waititi, whatever his name is, needs to stay the fuck away from all this stuff. He does not understand anything about the comic book characters in any way, shape, or form. There's my little rant for today. But yeah, I'm interested. If this is interesting to me, that if Sony does sell them, and I know people are like, there's no way they would sell them. They would, because they don't want to wait the long run. They don't want to wait 20 years to get paid $10 billion off of a movie every 5.5 years, off of one character. They would rather sell it off, take that money, and then invest it. Maybe they'll give $1 billion to Bungie to make Destiny 3. But these are just my thoughts. I don't believe that, actually. They won't give anything to Bungie because Bungie burns money. That's what they do. Bungie burns money. Okay, BBM. Bungie burns money. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you guys like what I do. We do this Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning to noon Eastern. We cover news stories, watch videos, give you my thoughts and opinions. If you like it, stick around. Let's see what else is going on here. Let me go to you guys. Let's see here. Waterbear says, but will it make $1 billion in an hour like GTA 6? Well, you know what's going to happen now, right? Everyone's going to go to the, even though Grand Theft Auto is one of the most successful games of all time and pieces of entertainment, who's going to get the movie rights? Who's going to make Grand Theft Auto the movie? And not the shitty one that Ron Howard was in back in the day. Waterbear says, Beta Hulk. That's the worst, man. That's the worst. Yeah, Paper says Soy Hulk. Yeah. Jesse Max says 30. In the comic books, they have a lot of bullshit. Well, of course they have a lot of bullshit. But at least the people writing it understand what the characters are. The people that are writing it are adapting stuff and they don't understand who the characters are morally. You're out of your mind and can't make a movie good now? Wait. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? They can't make a good movie now. Am I out of my mind? Well, it shows you they couldn't make a good movie. It's been 7 years since they had a good movie from Marvel. Shadow says Sony ruined the films themselves. Not that Disney had done much better lately. You're talking about like Morbius and stuff like that, Shadow. Yeah, but how do you write a fucking movie on Morbius? You would introduce Morbius in a Spider-Man film or something, and then maybe do a spinoff. You wouldn't just do a spinoff of Morbius. Nobody knows who the hell he is. To make a movie to be successful, you have to have a shit ton of people come and watch the film. That's how movies become successful. Shit ton of people have to see a movie if your budget's big. If you don't get a shit ton of people to see it, well, guess what? Failure. Clip says, yeah, because they can't use the Disney character Spider-Man isn't making $1 billion anymore. Member berries will only work so many times. Right. The longevity of Spider-Man, Sony's like, can we make $1 billion if we don't keep, giving it to Disney and putting them into films? We're like, what can we do? Kyle says, does this mean if Disney buys, would that annul them for being able to use Spider-Man in Disney World? that would go into a completely other different topic because there are other rules, not laws, rules, Kylo. Universal has the right still to Islands of Adventure, where they have Spider-Man and stuff like that, east of the Mississippi. Okay. This is why they built an Avenger or like a Marvel's camp over in California, but they haven't built it over here in Disney World in Orlando. Because anything east of the Mississippi, Universal still has the rights because they pay rent to Disney to own that right at Islands of Adventure. So anything east of the Mississippi cannot use any of Marvel characters. Hence why we don't have it here in Walt Disney World. This is why they have Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot and stuff like that, because they're not part of the original deal. So like, you know, Captain America, Iron Man, Wolverine, X-Men, any of that can't be here in Orlando because Universal has that right still. Shadow says they definitely would, and that money is nothing to Disney. We'll see. I mean, Disney's in their troubles with money as well. Waterbear says, speaking of 97, Season 2 starts tomorrow. Sweet. Is it all coming out at once, or they do it once a week, Water? I think I'll wait. Let's go on, Bat. Jesse Mack says, bring back Spider-Man animation 90s series. Start 1998 show. Did you check membership gifts was double to the other small YouTuber creator, but the other big creator have small price in membership gift. I don't know what you're talking about there, Bat. Did you check membership gift was doubled to other small YouTube creators, but the other big creators have small price in membership gift? I don't know what you're referencing there. I don't get free memberships to give out because I'm a brand channel. And I can't do it. If I make my channel an unbranded account, which is I made it a brand account 3 years ago, I have to delete my channel and start again. That ain't happening. Alternate says, instead of using Spider-Man, they should have also used Venom to introduce Morbius and then other characters like they wanted to make the spinoff. Right. You can't just drop Morbius and be like, yeah, this guy's from Spider-Man. They're like, okay, we'll get Jared Leto. He did a great job as Skeletor. Just Max says 30. Only Sony can do with make Peter's daughter, maybe Spider-Girl. Maybe. Kyle says, got it. Wasn't sure what was the same deal or something else that doesn't let them do so. Yeah, that's a completely like different contract that they have. So, Sarge says, Bungie doesn't burn money. They use a flamethrower and powered by money. Yeah, it's crazy. What a deal, though, right? People don't talk about that deal. Sony buying Spider-Man for $7 million, and they turned it to a $9 billion plus franchise. Good for them. Like, wow. Right? And then just selling the merchandise back to Marvel and Disney for $175 million. That's 168, what? 168 or 170. Yeah, 170 million. No, I'm sorry. 168 million. Profit off of that. They're like, we bought it for $7. We just gave them back the rights for 168. Jesus. Good for them. All right, so we were talking, we're going to jump to the next thing. The next story is, we heard a couple stories a couple days ago about how all hands on deck for either Fallout, Skyrim, everything needs to move towards that. And I said, as soon as they said that, I said, I don't want that. Sure, they showed the first trailer back in 2019, but they didn't start working on Elder Scrolls 6 until the last 2 years or so. Okay. All hands on deck now, trying to push it out the door. Push out the door as fast as possible is what you're going to get with Battlefield, what happened to Battlefield 6. 4 studios working on a thing as fast as possible, push it out the door, fix it afterwards. Grand Theft Auto was supposed to come out 18 months ago. We haven't seen anything yet. Once Grand Theft Auto comes out, we can see if they, obviously, by what the persona is of Rockstar, they're going to come out with a game that's not broke, buggy, and unfinished. Now, their online was broke, buggy, and unfinished when they launched it, okay, back in the day, but the single-player game wasn't broke, buggy, and unfinished, okay? So, Elder Scrolls 6 is that type of game. Not to say it's going to sell 40 million copies. What I'm saying is it's that high-end type of game where you don't want to fuck this up. You don't want to screw this up. And it says, Bethesda veteran warns the Elder Scrolls 6 faster schedule would gut features, yet 10 years spells ultimate failure. Okay? So, if you guys like what I do, we do this Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning till noon Eastern. If you like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. Okay? So, the Elder Scrolls 6 was announced back in 2018 during a year's Bethesda E3 showcase, and it may well be over a decade until we released on PC or console like PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X and S. While the long absence of the series has unnerved fans, the game taking so long to release may not be a bad thing. Bethesda Game Studios veterans and the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim lead designer Bruce Nedsmith warns the faster development times could lead to reduced features and polish, which already, guys, put it in your brain, because Elder Scrolls 6 is not coming out fully featured, especially after you hear Asha Sharma said, we're put all hands on deck to push that out, work on that faster. It says, quote, there's an old in software development about the process of having three corners: resources, time, and quality, which includes both features and polish. Ned Smith told FRVR, quote, the studio decides two of them, which determines the third. If you lock down the resources and staff and equipment, etc., and the schedule, that decides the quality you will achieve. Number of features and polish. Isn't that crazy? We always talk about this, me and Sarge. We know what deadlines are. They have deadlines. The reason they make deadlines, it was 2019, T-Gan. I was going to say something because I said that earlier, because State of Decay 3 announcement was the same year, and that was 2019, not 2018. But that's the reporter talking, right? I'm just reading the article. So they were rushing out stuff, and now it's fucked up, right? They know the deadline. Deadlines are deadlines. The reason it's a deadline in the beginning, okay, is because they know, okay, we have this many people working on this. We've made a game like this before. This is how long it takes. So our deadline's here. Because of that, they know the staff, they know the equipment, they know etc., right? They know the number of features and polish. If you lock down the quality and the schedule, that determines the resources you'll need to complete the project. Upper management. Goes back to the whole upper management thing we talk about. The three corners need to be roughly balanced. You can't ask the project to be done in a month by throwing 1 million people on it or overcommitting to any one of the corners, increasing friction to become less effective. Okay? Allowing 10 years for a project creates a cycle of endless reinvention of ultimate failure. Okay? To allow a shorter development time and thus a faster release to new entries, the Elder Scrolls and Fallout series, which is a new Xbox management, are pushing for, resources have to be increased and features have to be cut, or both. Like, listen to what this man's saying. This man works in the industry, okay? And we talk about management in these companies all the time. Xbox management are pushing for resources to have to be increased, or features have to be cut, or both. Okay? As resources are already significantly speeding up development could lead to significant issues. He says, quote, in my opinion, the biggest risk is shortening the schedules and is quality. Reduce features, polish, or bugs, Ned Smith said. The things that are also done last end up getting to set aside to complete the games on time. And of course, faster dev times will result in faster sequels. But that's the wrong question. Those sequels risk disappointing fans. You shouldn't be worrying about the sequel before you actually make the game, right? We say it here all the time. Make a game, sell a game. I made a song on the process of making a game. Make a game, sell a game. Right? The blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it. Don't rush it. Do the thing you want to do. Make the thing. And if you believe in it, it'll sell. Don't rush it out the door because you think the title is going to sell. The game has to sell. Don't think you're Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar without the stuff. You've got to prove yourself. Show us what this game is going to be instead of just rushing out the door because you want to make money off it and think it's going to fix the problem. Right? You're just making more of the problem in the company. It says one way to avoid a repeat of Elder Scrolls 6 situation would be to have a spin-off games developed by other studios to vine in the Fallout New Vegas or rely on asset reuse. While some Japanese development studios have successfully employed this, such as Square Enix with Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, or Ryugayu, I don't know how to say that studio, like a Dragon series, Western development studios haven't. Okay, Bethesda itself has been heavily criticized for doing so with Starfield, and Bruce Nesbitt believes that in this regard, the industry has painted itself into a corner. He says, quote, each new release has to be bigger and better and more, which we always talk about on here, right? The bar is set. We always talk about the bar set for the genre, but if you call it the sequel, your game has to hit the bare minimum of what the last game hit, and then you do a little bit higher. You don't have to go exceed super high, but you have to hit that bar, okay, of your other one. Skyrim is beloved by everybody. Expectations are gigantic. I would say Skyrim fans are just like the Grand Theft Auto fans, okay? From Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 6 has got to hit that bar and then succeed that bar because they waited 13 years for it. So now you wait for Elder Scrolls 6. You've been waiting so long for Elder Scrolls 6, it better not miss any features that the other one did all those years before. You see what I'm saying? So it says publishers demand it, the fans demand it, but bigger isn't literally harder to make. It's geometrically harder. But put it more simply, you get diminishing returns by adding staff and time. 20% more staff or time gets to be less than 20% improvement. With its long development time, Elder Scrolls 6 is expected to be the biggest entry in the series to date, but it'll also be very interesting to see if the future entries in the series will indeed take less time to develop and the price that also would need to pay to achieve this. Are you guys worried about Elder Scrolls 7, 8, and 9 right now? I'm not. I'm not even worried about Elder Scrolls 6. If they never made another Elder Scrolls game, I'd be like, all right, cool. If they choose to make an Elder Scrolls 6, not because the fan base is there and people paid for it, but because they want to make Elder Scrolls 6, because they have a story to tell, they want to continue the thing, well, then make it. Make the game. Don't rush the game out, though, right? The series remains one of the most popular RPG series to date, but strong sales don't always translate into high player retention, as highlighted by last year's Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. And it marketed, but you can't, first of all, you can't compare the two just because people bought it and then are not still playing Oblivion Remastered. It's an old game remastered. They already played it. People already played it and were fans of it and wanted updated graphics. Doesn't mean it's a bad game in any way, shape, or form. And the market where also sort of data determines the ultimate destiny of any gaming project. Shorter development times could definitely have an impact on the future of the franchise, no matter how popular it is. So this is a gentleman that's been in the industry for quite some time saying, look, I haven't been in the industry, right? I've only talked about games in the industry for over a decade, right? I said, as soon as they said it, I said, well, they're rushing Fallout and they're rushing Elder Scrolls out the door. They're trying to put as much people to it as fast as possible. Don't do that, because just like this gentleman said, if you're rushing it because you want to make the game out there because you're like, oh, this will save Xbox. Let's put a shittier version out of Elder Scrolls that everyone's been waiting for. And if it's missing features and it's not as good quality, right? Can you imagine if Elder Scrolls came out and it was like Avowed? Holy Christ. Done. Put a fork in it. Okay, we started the show off today talking about State of Decay 3 and how this game's almost done and they're willing to cancel it. And yet now they're also on the other end trying to rush one of the biggest franchises they paid $7 billion for from Bethesda and also Fallout, right? And they're trying to rush it out the door so they can complete things. It's like the actual management of Microsoft is absolutely... They've lost their mind. Okay. They're canceling projects almost done. They're rushing games that are not even close to being done just so they can get out the door to make a buck instead of just making a game, selling a game. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Please make sure you share, like, subscribe. And if you like what I do here, check out some of our other videos. Thanks for watching. All right. Let me see what you guys are talking about here. Scroll back up here. Shadow says, it's only been 15 years, guys. Surely we'll release another game. Yeah, it's been 15 years, but they haven't been working on it for 15 years, right? They said it internally. They haven't been working on the game since that trailer in 2019 for State of Decay and also Elder Scrolls was because they were trying to purchased. They're selling ZeniMax, right? Obviously, State of Decay 3 doesn't have anything to do with that. But when did Undead Labs get purchased? When did Undead Labs get purchased? Let me see. The company was founded in 2009, developed by State of Decay series. In 2018, Undead Labs became part of Microsoft Studios. Yeah. So in 2018, they just bought them. So they must have pushed them to get the trailer out for State of Decay 3 just to hype up people for investors. Waterbear says, so far, 50 million. Well, we don't know. We don't know any of the sales numbers yet for GTA. Shadow says, all I hear is more excuses. Waterbear says, how long have they actually been working on the new Elder Scrolls? I think it's been 2 years. Because Starfield, they said they weren't going to work on it until after Starfield came out. Tegan says, Western devs needs to figure out what the Chinese and South Korea devs know to make great games on smaller budgets. Well, it's the region they're in. The cost of living and everything is cheaper. So if the Western devs want to make as games like them over there, then they got to move to like Idaho or Kansas, and they gotta do can't make a studio in Bellevue. You can't make an industry in San Francisco. You can't be in the middle of Manhattan and having studios like this because they're burning money. Jesse Mack says, GTA 6 is in incomplete condition and copies for 100. They will lies about the sales numbers in the digital world. Well, we don't know what the sales numbers are. There's no sales numbers. There's speculations of what sales numbers are, but you'll know when the sales numbers happen because they'll tell you. Don't worry. Rockstar will tell you the sales numbers when they want to. Dennis says, I literally bought Skyrim on the 360, Enhanced Edition on the Xbox One. I switched to PlayStation, bought it there, and now I have it on PC. I did the same thing. Not as many copies, but I own like 3 Skyrims. I own like 3 Grand Theft Auto 5s as well. Let's see here. Got it. They were lazy, like the rest of the gaming industry. So Elder Scrolls 6, 2034. I would say if it's 5 to 7 years for big games, right? And obviously they don't rush it out the door. If they've been working on it for 2, then I would say 2029, 2030 is when we'll see Elder Scrolls. If it's out sooner than that, that means they've been working on it before they said they were working on it, or they're rushing out the door and they'll fix it 18, 24 months later. Rokiel says, in the salaries they pay those people out in China compared to the salaries they've gotten over here are big ass of the difference. Yeah, well, the cost of living and the salaries, yeah, 100%. Much cheaper over there. Alton says, breaking news, the friend of a janitor that works in front of the coffee shop that near Rockstar headquarters in India has told me that the GTA 6 has sold 100 million. Trust me, bro. Oh, man. Yeah, they're definitely going to make their money back. What all I'm saying, Shadow, is that people are running around with sales numbers. Rockstar will let you know when they're ready to tell you what the sales numbers are. There was something else. Oh, what was the thing you guys were talking about today in Discord? You're talking about there was a Helldivers update? They're getting a free gun or something like that? Let me go to Twitter. Yeah, but there's no source, Tegan. Reports, there's a bunch of people saying a bunch of different things. 39 million sales, 50 million sales, $3 billion in sales. Only when Rockstar comes out or Take-Two comes out, that's the only person I'll believe. Until then, it's all rumor. Yeah. Exactly, Chopper. They'll let you know. They'll let you know, and they'll let you know. And we were like, oh my God. Like, don't get me wrong. We speculated on GXG last week. 39 million. If it's 39 million sales, that's fucking crazy. Think about that, though. Hogwarts sold, was it 30 million units in the year? They sold 39 million, potentially, in 24 hours. Shadow says they won't likely say anything. Of course they will. They'll tell you the sales once those sales are official, when they want to. Oh, 100%. They'll say it from the rooftops with their loudspeaker. They'll tell you the sales. Sure, but the biggest sale, it's a different landscape. I'm not doubting that it didn't sell millions and tens of millions of copies. I've said that it'll sell the most pre-orders, the most, pre-orders day one, week one, month one, year one. They can all do that all in one little shot that they just already did. If it's true, 39 million to 50 million, they've already done all of that. The biggest pre-order before this was Cyberpunk 2077. It sold 8 million units, right? I said that this would sell 12 to 15 million units before everything we saw. This was months and months and months ago. Okay. I said it'd be 15 million units. And then in day one, it would sell additional 5. I said it'll sell about 20 to 25 million units. Okay. And that'll be the biggest of all time. If it's true that what they're doing now, if it is the 39 million to 50 million, of course, right? I'm not doubting that Grand Theft Auto didn't break all the records. I just can't say without a doubt that 39 million is true because it's not reported. It's just someone saying something on the internet. Yeah, of course. We all know Grand Theft Auto is the biggest seller, but what's the number? That's the thing. We know that it's the biggest seller, but we don't know the number, and that's my point. Let's see here. Going through Twitter, seeing what's going on here. Anything exciting happening here? Anything news that breaks? Marvel Spider-Man 2 Steam sale, $31.99. Switch 2 is getting Oblivion remastered. Oh, so there's already talks, rumor, because of the weekend that Supergirl's having right now, which is terrible. Supergirl right now, and we'll bring this up on the screen. If you guys remember, this was actually up to 30 million yesterday. You could watch the video yesterday. This was at 30, and this was at 35 or whatever. It was at 60. It was 60 million total. It was like just above. They've lowered this now internationally to 25 million. The opening went down a million because it was at 38 something. So now the actual numbers are, coming out. It's made 62 million. It's on pace because if you do the math, right, and they're not even showing the numbers for Monday yet. I guess it's new now, so they should be coming out soon. But if it drops 50%, right, meaning it's only going to make, if it made 62 million this week, it's only going to make 30 million this next week, right? This next weekend. And if it does that, and then it makes half of that and half of that and half of that, this movie's not even going to break $200 million. Okay? Not even going to break $200 million, which is, this is on pace. This is on pace to be one of the worst films in not just recent years, like lose a lot of money. It's definitely going to be one of the worst superhero films. That's with Marvel and DC and whatnot. It was 68 million, right? I would have to go back and look. Do I have to go back to my own video yesterday to see what the All right, let me go back to my own video. This could be interesting. I'm gonna go back to my own video from yesterday to look at what the actual price was, because it was at the end of the stream, right? We talked about it at the end of the stream. Back. Oh, let's see. Yeah. I'll show you. So this was yesterday's. 38 domestic, 30 million international, 68 million total, 38 opening. I like how I'm coughing. And now we have 37, 25, 62. So it's gone down. It's gone down 900,000 domestically, and it's gone down 6 million or 5 million internationally. Clayface, I think, will make money. And here's why it feels good. Because it doesn't cost $200 million to make. It's a horror film, right? I think the budget is less than 70 million. So even if it makes, well, it'll be close. If it's 70 million, and let's say the budget, we'll do half of that. So let's just say 120 million, 110 to 120 million after marketing for Clayface. It would have to make 240 to 250 million dollars to make money. I think it's possible it makes money and it'll be profitable. Right? But we'll see. I have yet to see, anything really from the, I'm not going to see it. I'm not interested in seeing it, but yeah, I heard it was around 50 to 60, which is awesome. That's what Supergirl should have been. Yes. But it wasn't. It was 165, 175 million. So, but this is it. When you have a person in the film industry, so I worked on a film. It was called Never Back Down. Okay. Never Back Down had I forget the director's name. It was Jeff something. He came from digital world of filmmaking. Okay. And this was his first film that he was doing with actual film. So we went over well over budget because the producers that were on that film didn't wrangle him in. So when he shot it, he was shooting it like he was shooting on digital. And when you shoot digital, you have multiple cameras, you're taking multiple takes, you can just delete stuff. But with film, you got to know what you're doing because every frame that you film is money in the can. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're burning that money. You don't need to take 25,000 takes. Okay, you don't need to take 25,000 takes for a thing. You got to know what you're doing. Hence why you need pre-production. Hence why you need storyboards and script soup. And this is why you have to have a breakdown and know what you're doing before you get to the actual set when you're on film. With digital, you're just like, I'll take this shot, I'll take this shot, I'll take this shot, and then you throw it half away on the cutting room floor. In film, you got to know what you're shooting, and you might get a different kind of shot and stuff like that. He went over well over budget. I forget what it was a $50 million budget film. And we shot something like, I want to say like 250 cans of film. Okay. Which is crazy, right? We're not making Lord of the Rings here. So the reason I bring up that is because if you don't have the correct management, if you don't have the correct people to wrangle in the artist, and this goes across movies, this goes across video games, this goes across music, right? You have an abundance of money that's being wasted because in the music industry, you rent the studio. And if the artist can't sing the thing and do the stuff, and the more you do it, the more it burns the cash, right? If you're a director and you don't know what you're filming and your actor's complicated and you can't things get right, you're just burning film, okay? I don't know how it really does with the digital more nowadays, right? I would assume it's the downloading and how long it takes and the whole process, because you don't want to shoot a shit ton of stuff because it makes it longer in the edit, right? You want to get what you want, right? Hence, again, why the storyboards and stuff like that, or the previews and stuff like that, right? Hence why Marvel basically films all the stuff CGI-wise and has a director come in and deal with the characters, and they already know what they're filming before they even get there, right? So with movies, though, you got to know what you're doing. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants. I bet you that the director, the kid, right, the teenager that did, was it The Back Room? I bet you he had that shit mapped out in his head. He was sleeping and knew exactly what shots he wanted. Right? Knows what he wants. That's the difference. Everyone thinks it can be a director. Everyone thinks it can be a producer until it comes down to being a director and a producer. I'm waiting for that new Batman animation movie that looks dope. That just showed up a couple days ago, right? Yeah, it looks good. Jesse Max says AI will cut out most of the budgets to cut down the number of budget deficient. Well, here's the thing. You still need to make, because I've been messing around with AI and stuff like that. I have the vision that I want in my head, right? And as an AI, as you're typing it in and making the things that you need for AI, you still need the credits, and you still need, and yes, a movie's going to cost 1/10 of what it costs. Don't get me wrong there. But people are still going to need to know what they want, and the consistencies between, which is getting better and better. Once they get that down, 100%, it's going to change the landscape of filmmaking. Because now you or me, anyone that has a vision in their head, just like I'm doing with the music, you can make a small little short film. You can make, the thing that you want to make, the thing that your dream was about. You can do it, which is crazy. It's gonna completely and utterly change the landscape of filmmaking. But the problem is everyone can do it. And there's going to be way more content now, way more than what YouTube has now. And because of that, it's going to be a saturation fest of people making films and television shows. Oh yeah, 100% you can do it. This year, there will be a full AI film. Like in theaters. Right? Disney's already talking about putting AI stuff on the TV shows and stuff like that. The whole landscape is changing very, very fast. People didn't believe me. When we were looking at the spaghetti Will Smith a couple years ago, I said exponentially this will be the worst that it will be. And now people can go look on YouTube right now. Right? When we say bye-bye Hollywood, though, Ghost, Hollywood just becomes something different now. Right? YouTube is Hollywood. There's some impressive AI Star Wars shorts on YouTube. Oh, 100%. And it was funny. Albany in the very beginning was saying something about the songs. If you guys missed the songs, I have songs that I've created with Suno that I create them specifically for what our content is. Talking about video games, make a game, sell a game. Video games aren't the same anymore. Battlefield's back, right? I make these songs, and a regular band I wouldn't be able to hire a band to make that song. No one would make that song, right? Because they couldn't afford a band to do it. But with AI, I can create the song like this. It's amazing, right? That's what's happening. You wouldn't make a movie about what happens specifically on Cloud City, right? Cloud City was just a small little portion of Empire Strikes Back. But now there's people going in depth of what happened after, when they arrived at Cloud City, before Han and them arrived there. What Darth Vader came and talked to Lando and stuff, right? You don't really need to see that. But now with this, you can, and you're like, oh, that's cool. So as a fan, you're like filling in the gaps with stuff. And I think that's fucking cool. Jesse Max says even Star Wars, Dave, said that the AI tools will cut down their budget to help them achieve. Yeah, 100%. You can't imagine or you can't deny that if we're using AI, that you don't think that Hollywood's going to use AI. Hollywood has to follow rules, right? They have unions and stuff that they have to make sure that they don't fuck over. We don't have unions. We can just make what we want and put it on the internet. Star Wars Tales Untold is a good one. Says, yeah, but not going to be like how it was when we were growing up. No, definitely not. That's exactly why I started making my music. Because I would play music before when I was on Twitch and stuff like that, and we would get hit with the VODs. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own fucking music. Make my own fucking music. That's what I started doing. All right, what time is it? 12:15, 12:14? All right, chat. It's an awesome show today. Lots to talk about. I learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot with some of the stuff that we watched and the articles that we read. If you guys like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. We're gonna send you out with we're going to put you out with the plan today. You guys have a great rest of your day, evening, and night. We'll be back tonight, 30 and Still Gaming. We're playing some more Enshrouded. We'll be back tomorrow for the Daily Grind. We'll be back tomorrow night over on Fake Wizard News. And then we'll be back on Thursday for the Daily Grind. And then we'll be back for Generation X Gaming episode 495. Appreciate it very much. You guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Guard signs off after decades strong. Phil walked the road, tried to right what felt wrong. Built Game Pass Thunder, made the Xbox roar. But the winds of change knocked right on the door. Now Asher's here with a vision to cast from Corey to the gaming mast. Says she'll listen, learn, and keep fans inside. Console first, keep hardware tight.